There's a moment from Boston that ARMY can't stop talking about, and if you haven't seen it yet, you're about to understand exactly why. Picture this. Gillette Stadium, tens of thousands of fans packed into every level of the venue, the base of FYA, hitting so hard you can feel it in your chest even through a phone screen. And right in the middle of all that chaos, Jimin launches into the air like gravity. Simply doesn't apply to him tonight. Behind him, pyro flames are shooting up from the stage, lighting up the whole scene in orange and gold. And for one suspended second, he's just floating there, hair flying, completely locked into the performance, completely unaware or completely unbothered that a camera somewhere in that crowd just caught what might be one of the most talked about frames of the entire ARIRANG World Tour. If this is your first time on this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now, because we cover every single one of these moments as they happen, across every city on this tour, and you do not want to miss what's coming next. Let's talk about why this particular clip hit different. FYA isn't just another song in the set list. It's the moment in the show where BTS takes one of their most explosive tracks from years back and fuses it with a completely new, Jersey club-inspired energy that turns the whole stadium into something closer to a rave than a traditional concert. It's loud, it's fast, it's relentless, and it demands a performer who can match that intensity without losing an ounce of control. That's exactly what makes this Jimin moment so special. This isn't a choreographed formation move where every member hits the same mark at the same time. This is Jimin, in that specific pocket of a song, taking the space the stage gives him and turning it into something completely his own. The jump you see in that fancam isn't just physical. You can see it in his face, in the way his whole body commits to the beat, that this is a performer fully present in that exact second. Singing and dancing like the stadium is the only place in the world that matters right now. If you're new to how these tour videos work, drop a comment telling us which city's fancams you want us to cover next, because we genuinely read every single one, and it shapes what we dig up for future videos. Now here's where we need to set the record straight, because if you've scrolled through any reaction pages today, you've probably seen this clip described a dozen different ways, some of them wildly exaggerated. No, Jimin was not jumping toward the fire. No, he wasn't in any danger. The pyro effects you see blazing in that shot are actually positioned well behind and below where he's performing. It's a visual layer, a dramatic backdrop that the lighting and effects team built into that section of the show specifically to punch up the energy of FYA. Jimin himself stays completely in his own space on that stage, focused entirely on the vocals and the choreography, while the flames do their job in the background, creating that cinematic, almost apocalyptic atmosphere behind him. It's a small distinction, but it matters, because what actually happened here is arguably more impressive than the exaggerated version. This is a performer who can hold that kind of high-energy, high-stakes-looking moment through sheer stage presence and timing, no actual danger required. That's a skill built from years of training and thousands of hours on stages exactly like this one. So if you've seen people running with the Jimin jumped into fire narrative, feel free to send them this video, because accuracy matters just as much as hype when we're talking about moments like this. And if you want content that actually checks the footage before running with a headline, this is the channel for that. So make sure that notification bell is turned on so you catch these breakdowns the moment they go live. Let's zoom out for a second, because to really understand why this Boston moment landed the way it did, you have to understand where Jimin is at this point in the tour. This isn't his first rodeo when it comes to turning a single stage moment into something the entire fandom fixates on for days. Go back to the European leg, and you'll remember Munich, where he had the whole stadium doubled over laughing during a viral bit imitating footballer Erling Haaland's walk, before turning around and dribbling a soccer ball on stage mid-performance of Butter the following night. Go back to Brussels, and you'll remember the show pausing entirely because Jimin noticed a fan in distress near the barricade and made sure she got help before the concert continued. A moment that had nothing to do with choreography and everything to do with who he is as a performer who never stops watching the crowd. Go back to New Jersey just days before this Boston show, and you'll remember him commenting on the brutal heat and humidity, praising the crowd for singing and dancing through it anyway, and then closing that stretch of shows by walking off through stage smoke, waving, blowing kisses, gently touching RM's back before disappearing into the fog in a moment fans called nothing short of cinematic. This is a pattern, not a coincidence. Every single stop on this tour, Jimin finds a way to create a moment that transcends the set list, that transcends the choreography sheet, that becomes the thing people are still talking about days later. And Boston, it turns out, is no exception. If you've been following this channel through the whole tour, you already know we've covered basically every one of these moments as they've happened. And if you haven't been following along, now's a great time to go back through our tour coverage and catch up, because trust us, you don't want to be behind when the next one drops. What's fascinating about this specific Foxborough moment is the timing within the show itself. FYA sits in a part of the set list where the energy is already cranked to its absolute peak. This isn't an intro song, this isn't a ballad, this is deep into the performance where the whole stadium has been building momentum for over an hour, and the production team throws everything they've got at this section. The pyro, the lighting shifts, the bass drops that you can practically see rippling through the crowd on camera. To hit a moment like that jump in the middle of all that chaos, and have it land as clean and controlled as it does in this fancam, says a lot about where Jimin is physically and mentally on this tour right now. This isn't a performer coasting through a long touring schedule. This is someone who, night after night, city after city, keeps finding another gear. And for ARMY, who've been following this journey since the very first show back in Goyang, watching that intensity carry all the way through to a stadium in Massachusetts, on a stage the group had never performed on before this week, it's different. This was BTS's first time ever playing Gillette Stadium. First time in New England as a full group. And Jimin, in true Jimin fashion, made sure that debut came with a moment nobody's going to forget. If moments like this are the reason you watch these videos, smash that like button right now. It genuinely helps push this content to more ARMY who might be missing out on coverage like this. Let's talk a little more about what makes fancams like this one spread the way they do, because there's actually a formula to it, even if it doesn't feel like one in the moment. It's rarely the biggest, most polished official camera shots that end up defining a tour stop online. It's almost always these slightly shaky, slightly imperfect fan-recorded clips, captured from somewhere in the crowd, that end up carrying the most emotional weight. Why? Because they capture something raw. There's no editing, no camera operator perfectly tracking the choreography, no broadcast quality color grading smoothing everything out. What you get instead is exactly what a fan standing in that stadium actually saw with their own eyes. The shakiness of someone holding up a phone while jumping and screaming right alongside everyone else. The imperfect framing that somehow makes the moment feel more real, more present, more like you were actually there. That's exactly what's happening with this Jimin FYA clip from Boston. It's not the cleanest shot in the world, but it's honest. And in an era where so much content feels manufactured, that honesty is exactly what makes people stop scrolling and watch it 3, 4, 5 times in a row. If that's the kind of raw, real tour coverage you're here for, this channel is built around exactly that. So consider this your sign to subscribe if you haven't already. There's also something worth saying about how physically demanding this tour has been on all 7 members, and Jimin especially. The ARIRANG World Tour isn't a short victory lap. It's dozens of shows spanning multiple continents, stretching from the spring all the way into next year, with barely any real downtime between legs. Performing FYA at full intensity, night after night, in stadium after stadium, in front of tens of thousands of people who are all hoping to catch exactly the kind of moment we're talking about right now, takes a toll that's easy to forget about when you're watching a 3-second clip on your phone. Every jump, every freestyle break, every moment where Jimin pushes past the choreography sheet and gives the crowd something extra is coming from someone who's already danced and sung through nearly 2 hours of a full-scale stadium production by that point in the night. And he's still finding the energy, still finding the commitment, to make FYA in Boston feel like a moment worth capturing forever. That's worth appreciating, and it's worth remembering the next time you're watching a clip like this and just see the highlight reel version without thinking about everything that goes into a performer being able to deliver like that, consistently, across an entire world tour. If this kind of behind-the-moment context is something you want more of, let us know in the comments, because we're always looking for ways to go deeper than just the surface-level clip. What's also worth pointing out is just how fast this clip traveled once it hit the internet. Within hours of the Boston show wrapping, versions of this fancam were already circulating across TikTok, X, Instagram Reels, and every major BTS fan account you can think of, each platform adding its own layer of captions, reactions, and slow-down replays, trying to capture every angle of that jump. That kind of cross-platform spread isn't something that happens by accident. It happens when a moment genuinely earns it, when there's something in the footage that makes people want to share it immediately instead of just scrolling past. And if you spent any time in ARMY spaces online over the past day, you already know this clip has been one of those moments. Translation accounts jumped on it almost instantly too, making sure fans who don't speak Korean or English could still understand exactly what happened and why it mattered, which says a lot about how global this fandom really is. A moment captured by one person's phone in a stadium in Massachusetts, within 24 hours, was being watched, translated, and discussed by fans on every continent. That's the reach we're talking about here, and it's exactly why a clip like this deserves more than just a quick repost. It deserves the kind of breakdown we're giving it right now. It's also worth noting how this fits into the broader conversation happening around this leg of the tour specifically. Coming right off the back of the New Jersey shows, where fans were already buzzing about everything from Jimin's new silver gray hair to that emotional walk-off through the smoke, Boston had a lot to live up to. And rather than feeling like just another stop on a long list of tour dates, this Foxborough show ended up carving out its own identity almost immediately, largely because of moments exactly like this one. That's the thing about a tour this massive, with dozens of cities and countless shows, it would be easy for individual stops to blur together. But then a moment like this jump happens, and suddenly Boston isn't just another city on the map. It's the city where Jimin gave FYA everything he had, where the pyro lit up the New England sky, and where a shaky fancam ended up becoming the thing this whole stop gets remembered for. That's the kind of impact we're talking about, and it's exactly the kind of moment this channel exists to cover in full. It's also worth thinking about how a moment like this fits into the bigger emotional arc of this comeback tour in general. Remember, this isn't just any world tour for BTS. This is the first time all 7 members have stood on a stage together since finishing their mandatory military service, the first full group run since the world last saw them as a complete unit years ago. Every stadium they step into on this tour carries a little bit of that weight, that sense of we're finally back, and we're going to make every single show count. You could feel it back in Goyang on opening night, even through the rain and the technical hiccups that came with it. You could feel it in Madrid, when Jimin's vocals had the internet crowning him Vocal King, within hours of the first show. You could feel it in Munich, when BTS became the first Asian act to sell out 2 consecutive nights at Allianz Arena. And you can absolutely feel it in this Boston clip, because a jump like this doesn't happen from a performer who's just going through the motions. It happens from someone who understands exactly how much this tour means to the group, to ARMY, and to himself, and who's choosing night after night to give everything he has to it. That context is easy to lose when you're just watching a few seconds of footage on repeat, but it's exactly what makes this Boston moment worth talking about instead of just scrolling past. Now let's talk about what this means going forward, because Boston isn't the end of the story. It's really just the latest chapter in a tour that keeps finding new peaks. With more North American dates still ahead, and an entire second half of this world tour still to come, the expectation among ARMY at this point is less. Will there be another moment like this and more when? Every city seems to bring something new. Every stadium seems to unlock a slightly different version of the group's energy, shaped by the crowd, the setlist tweaks, the surprise songs, and yes, moments like this Jimin jump during FYA that nobody could have scripted in advance. That unpredictability, that sense that literally any night on this tour could produce the clip that ends up defining not just that stop but potentially the entire tour retrospective months down the line, is exactly what keeps ARMY glued to every single fancam that gets posted, no matter how blurry or shaky it might be. And it's exactly why this channel exists, to make sure you're not missing a single one of these moments as they happen, with context, with accuracy, and without the exaggeration that so much of this content ends up drowning in. So if you've made it this far into the video, you clearly care about getting the full picture, not just the headline, and that means you're exactly the kind of viewer this channel is built for. Before we wrap up, let's take one more look at what actually made this moment work, because it's worth breaking down piece by piece. You've got the song choice, FYA, one of the highest energy cuts in the entire ARIRANG set, built specifically to hit hardest deep into the show when the crowd's energy is already maxed out. You've got the production design, pyro effects positioned to create maximum visual drama without ever putting a single performer at risk, Exactly the kind of large-scale stadium show engineering that makes tours like this so expensive and so spectacular to witness in person. And then you've got Jimin himself, fully committed to the performance, using every inch of space that stage gives him, turning a scripted moment in the choreography into something that feels completely spontaneous and alive. Put all three of those pieces together, captured by one fan with a shaky phone camera somewhere in the Gillette Stadium crowd, and you get a clip that's now being watched and rewatched by ARMY around the world, days after the actual show wrapped. That's the power of a moment like this. That's why we're making an entire video just to break down a few seconds of footage. Because when it comes to this tour, and when it comes to Jimin specifically, a few seconds is sometimes all it takes. And honestly, that's part of what makes covering this tour so rewarding from this side of the camera too. Every city brings a slightly different flavor of Jimin moment. Sometimes it's playful, like the Holland impression in Munich. Sometimes it's tender, like stopping a show in Brussels to make sure a fan was okay. Sometimes it's just pure, unfiltered performance energy, like what we just watched happen in Boston. And trying to catch all of it, verify all of it, and bring it to you without the exaggeration that so much of this space runs on, is exactly the mission behind every video on this channel. We'd rather tell you the accurate version of a great story than the inflated version of an okay one, and moments like this Boston jump prove that the accurate version is usually plenty exciting on its own. If you enjoyed this breakdown, do us a favor and drop a comment letting us know what part of this Boston moment stood out to you the most. Was it the jump itself, the pyro backdrop, or just the overall energy of that section of the show? We read every comment, and honestly, some of our best video ideas have come straight from what you all point out that we might have missed. And if you're new here, welcome! This channel is entirely dedicated to covering BTS and Jimin's journey through this world tour, city by city, moment by moment, with a focus on getting the facts right instead of just chasing the most dramatic version of every story. That means when a moment gets exaggerated online, like this one did with the whole jumping into fire narrative, we're going to be the channel that actually breaks down what really happened, frame by frame, so you're never left wondering what's true and what's just internet noise. One more thing before you go. If you want to make sure you're seeing every single tour update as soon as it drops, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because with this many cities left on the ARIRANG World Tour, there is going to be a lot more of this. A lot more fan cams. A lot more moments that spread across every platform within hours. A lot more nights where Jimin, or one of the other members, does something on that stage that nobody expected, and ARMY spends the next few days trying to process it. We'll be here for every single one of them, breaking it down exactly like we just did with this Boston moment, accurately, in depth, and with the kind of context that actually helps you understand why these moments matter, not just that they happened. So thank you for watching all the way to the end of this one. Drop a like if this video gave you a new appreciation for what went into that jump. Share it with any fellow ARMY who might have seen the exaggerated version of this clip floating around and deserves to know the real story. And we'll see you in the next video, when the ARIRANG World Tour rolls into its next stop and gives us, undoubtedly, something else worth talking about.